Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with Pacific Nut Producer Magazine, reporting to you from the annual Conference of American Pistachio Growers. I'm here with Dominic Pitigliano, a pistachio grower in Tipton, California. One of the things that you guys are doing on your farm is groundwater recharge.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about that today because there's been a lot of trials and experiments out there on seeing how well it works in orchards and vineyards, or just strictly on your property. So tell us about it. Obviously, groundwater is a limited resource that we're realizing is much more limited than we previously thought. So tell us about it.
So on our property, we're fortunate to have basins already built into our property. Some of our basins were actually built by Caltrans back in the 50s when they built the freeway. So on one of the properties that I live on, there's 18 acres of about an 18-foot basin. And what we did is we built an infrastructure from the canal system, our lower Tule irrigation district. And so when there's flood release, we actually pump and pull gravity in of about 6,500 gallons per minute. And what that does for us, like most people know with Sigma, there's a lot of talk about retiring property. So our goal is to not retire property, but actually sink water when it comes down the line. And our thought about this is we're investing in the future. We're actually putting it on our balance sheet and showing the banks that we have so much water banked for the future. We might argue with the bank on what that value is, but we know how many gallons or acre feet that is. And so every year we could adjust that and show the bank that over the next 5 years we might have to use X amount of acre feet, and our bank account has 10,000 X amount of acre feet. So that's our goal for the future personally.
Yeah, so that water is not, flooded into orchards or vineyards. You have a basin, but you're not touching it as far as using that to irrigate your orchard.
It's not a reservoir. There's only inlets in, and so farmers south of our area are experimenting with using tile systems to actually inject the water underneath the orchards. But at this point, we don't have to do something like that. So we have a basin that we use to actually grow trees in the bottom of the basin. So we had most of the infrastructure, the cement lines and plastic lines to get the water in. What we're doing now is just making everything bigger so that in our area, we might only get 2 weeks of water. So we need to get the most amount of water in the shortest amount of time and then let that water naturally percolate down into the ground.
Now, as far as maintenance of this, is there a lot of maintenance work, and are you getting any additional help or assistance because you're doing something not just for yourselves but for the community? So just thinking about other growers that might want to do the same thing.
So currently their FSA has been working on trying to have some programs. Our problem was this was already a basin, and so we didn't change anything or remove any orchards for this. So FSA or NRCS has mentioned that there is funding, and I know a lot of irrigation districts are getting some of that funding to build their own recharge. Our thought was that's great that irrigation district is recharging for all the growers in general, but we would rather control our destiny and how much water we personally sink. I think it's the future. We have to be cautious of how much water we're using. Pistachios are a great example of that. They say they're drought tolerant, but we all know that there's times of the year that they do take water. So if we could bank that water so that when we do need it, we're allowed to pull it out of the ground. That's going to be our future. Is we have the lobbyists, and any water we could get coming down the canal is obviously what we need. But in times of drought or anything, if we could use the reserves that we built in the ground and bring it back up, just like normal groundwater pumping, that's going to be where we have to be sustainable.
It's really awesome. Dominic's just one of so many farmers out there that have such great sustainability programs. You're investing in not just your future, but your family's and the community's future, and you're not alone.
No, like I always say, we're not planting pistachios for this year. We're planting them for our children or our grandchildren. It takes at least 12 years before you start thinking about breaking even. So if you're so nearsighted that you don't plan for the future, then why even plant an orchard?
Well said. Well, thank you very much. Read more about these things in Pacific Nut Producer Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, PacificNutProducer.com.